Dr. Carter stepped through the doorway, the glowing light enveloping her completely. For a moment, her body felt weightless, as if she were suspended in a vast shimmering void. Her senses blurred, overwhelmed by a kaleidoscope of colors, sounds, and sensations that defied comprehension. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the light faded, and she found herself standing on solid ground. The world beyond the doorway was breathtakingly alien yet strangely inviting. The sky above was a deep swirling indigo, dotted with stars that seemed far closer than they should be. The air shimmered faintly, carrying a golden glow that emanated from the ground itself, which was composed of a smooth metallic surface that shifted subtly underfoot, like liquid frozen in motion. Strange, translucent structures rose in the distance, their forms organic and ever-changing, as though they were alive. The rest of the team stumbled through the doorway behind her, each reacting with a mix of awe and trepidation. One of the scientists, a young astrophysicist named Rachel, gasped audibly as she gazed at the surreal landscape. This isn't possible," she whispered, her voice tinged with both fear and wonder. "It's not just possible," Dr. Carter replied, her voice steady despite the rapid beating of her heart. "It's real." As the team gathered their bearings, they noticed movement in the distance. The beings Barron had encountered emerged from the glowing structures, their forms radiant and ethereal. They glided across the ground effortlessly, their bodies shimmering like light reflected on water. Though their features were indistinct, their presence was undeniably intelligent and immensely powerful. The beings didn't speak in words, but communicated through waves of emotion and imagery that flooded the minds of Dr. Carter and her team. The first impression was one of welcome, a gentle assurance that they were not in danger, but it was followed by a profound sense of urgency. The beings had been waiting for them, and now that they had arrived, there was much to be done. The lead being extended a glowing hand, not physically but as a projection into their minds. With this gesture came a vision, the vast cosmic network of black boxes stretching across countless galaxies. The vision zoomed in on Earth, showing its single lonely node blinking faintly among the stars. The beings conveyed that the black boxes were far more than mere devices. They were living systems, conduits of knowledge, communication, and energy. Dr. Carter felt a surge of understanding. "The black boxes," she murmured. "They're part of this network, a way to connect civilizations." The being responded with another wave of imagery. It showed worlds thriving with advanced technologies, their people united by the shared knowledge of the network. But it also showed desolate planets, their civilizations destroyed by greed, fear, or misuse of the power the network provided. The message was clear. The network offered immense potential, but it came with risks. One of the soldiers stepped forward, his hand instinctively on his weapon. "What do they want from us?" he asked, his voice cautious. The beings conveyed their answer through a sudden flood of emotion. Curiosity, hope, and something that felt like a question. Dr. Carter understood immediately. "They're asking if we're ready," she said. "Ready to join them?" The beings led the team toward one of the glowing structures. Its walls shifted like liquid as they approached. Inside, the air was warm and alive with faint vibrations. In the center of the structure was a massive, pulsating orb of light. The beings gestured toward it, and the orb expanded, projecting holographic images into the air. The team watched in awe as the orb displayed the history of the black boxes. They had been seeded across the universe by an ancient, advanced civilization designed to test and guide younger species. The beings explained through emotions and impressions that the black boxes were not merely tools but guardians, observing and evaluating civilizations to determine their readiness to join the network. "They've been watching us," Dr. Carter said, her voice tinged with both awe and unease. Not just for years, for centuries. The orb shifted, showing Earth's history from the perspective of the black boxes. Moments of human triumph, scientific breakthroughs, acts of unity, and displays of compassion were highlighted. But so too were moments of darkness. Wars, environmental destruction, and the exploitation of power. The beings impressed upon them that humanity's potential was immense, but so were its flaws. As the presentation ended, the beings conveyed a final message. The doorway was a bridge, but it wasn't the end of the journey. It was the beginning. To fully join the network, humanity would need to prove its readiness by undergoing a series of tests, challenges that would push the team to their limits and force them to confront the very essence of what it meant to be human. Dr. Carter turned to her team, her expression serious. "This is why the black boxes brought us here," she said. "They're offering us a choice, to prove ourselves or to turn back." The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances while the scientists debated quietly among themselves. Some were eager to proceed, driven by curiosity and ambition, while others were wary of the unknown risks. Dr. Carter looked back at the beings, who stood silently waiting for their response. She took a deep breath, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. "We didn't come all this way to turn back now," she said firmly. "We'll take the test." The beings didn't move, but a wave of approval washed over the team, filling them with a strange mix of determination and apprehension. The orb of light pulsed brightly, and the glowing structure around them began to shift, transforming into a labyrinth of corridors and chambers. The team stood in stunned silence as the glowing structure transformed, reshaping itself into a vast labyrinth of shifting corridors and chambers. Walls of shimmering, liquid-like material pulsed with faint light, each pulse syncing perfectly with the hum that seemed to resonate through the entire environment. The beings observed from a distance, their ethereal forms blending seamlessly with the luminous surroundings. Dr. Carter took a cautious step forward, her breath caught in her throat. The team's surroundings felt alive, as though the structure itself was aware of their presence. The orb of light at the center of the chamber pulsed once more, projecting a series of images into the air. This time the images were less abstract. They depicted interconnected nodes spanning a map of the cosmos. The network stretched across galaxies, its scale incomprehensible. "This is the Black Network," Dr. Carter murmured, her voice filled with awe. "It's everywhere." The nodes weren't random. Each represented a civilization, some faint and flickering, others glowing brightly. Lines connected the nodes, forming pathways of light that pulsed with information. As the team watched, the network seemed to expand and shift, as though it were alive, constantly evolving. The beings projected another wave of impressions and images, explaining the nature of the Black Network. It was not just a means of communication. It was a living system designed to foster growth, collaboration, and understanding among advanced civilizations. The black boxes served as gateways, allowing species to access the network once they had proven their readiness. The projections showed how civilizations could share knowledge across unimaginable distances, exchanging ideas, technologies, and even resources. Worlds that had once been isolated flourished as they became part of something greater, their progress accelerated by the collective wisdom of the network. But the images also revealed the risks. Some civilizations had faltered, overwhelmed by the power and responsibility that came with access to the network. Greed, fear, and internal conflict had led to their destruction, their nodes extinguished, leaving only faint echoes in the system. Dr. Carter absorbed the information, her mind racing. "It's a double-edged sword," she said. "The network offers unimaginable possibilities, but it also comes with immense risks. It's not just about what we gain. It's about whether we can handle it." The orb shifted its focus to Earth, zooming in on the single flickering node that represented humanity. The beings conveyed a sense of cautious optimism tempered by doubt. Earth's node was faint, unstable, a reflection of humanity's potential but also its flaws. Images of human triumphs, scientific breakthroughs, and acts of unity were juxtaposed with images of war, environmental destruction, and greed. One of the soldiers, a man named Owens, frowned as the images played out. "They've been watching us," he said, "judging us." Dr. Carter nodded. "The black boxes weren't just waiting for us to find them. They've been evaluating us, studying our progress." The beings conveyed another impression. The network was not just about sharing knowledge. It was also about accountability. Civilizations that joined the network had to commit to its principles: cooperation, sustainability, and the pursuit of collective growth. Those that failed to uphold these principles risked losing their place within the system. "It's a test of character as much as capability," Dr. Carter said. "They're asking if we're ready to move beyond our own limitations, to think beyond ourselves." As the projections faded, the orb pulsed brighter, its glow spreading across the chamber. A new image appeared, a single line connecting Earth's node to the rest of the network. The beings conveyed that this connection was fragile, temporary, a trial run to determine humanity's suitability for full integration. If humanity succeeded, the connection would solidify, granting access to the network's vast resources. If it failed, the connection would collapse, and the opportunity might never come again. Rachel, the astrophysicist, stepped forward, her voice tinged with both excitement and concern. "If we join this network, we're not just gaining knowledge, we're opening ourselves up to scrutiny, to influence. What if we're not ready for that kind of exposure?" "We might not be," Dr. Carter admitted, "but the fact that we're here, that we've been given this chance, means we have potential. And if we don't take this step, we may never get another opportunity like this." Owens crossed his arms. "And if we take it and fail? What happens then?" Dr. Carter hesitated, but the beings provided an answer through a wave of somber emotion. The consequences of failure would not be immediate, but they would be far-reaching. The network would not intervene in humanity's destruction. It would simply observe, recording Earth as another lost opportunity. The beings gestured toward a newly formed passageway, its walls glowing faintly. They conveyed that the team would need to complete a series of trials designed to test humanity's readiness. These trials would assess their intelligence, morality, and capacity for growth. Success would strengthen the connection. Failure would sever it. Dr. Carter turned to her team, her expression resolute. "This is it," she said. "The decision we make here doesn't just affect us. It affects the entire planet. If we're going to do this, we need to do it together." The team exchanged uncertain glances but ultimately nodded in agreement. They had come too far to turn back now. As they stepped into the glowing passageway, the hum of the network grew louder, resonating in their very bones. The first trial awaited, and with it, the fate of humanity's place in the cosmos. The glowing passageway led the team into a vast chamber unlike anything they had seen before. The walls shimmered with intricate patterns, shifting and flowing like liquid light. The hum of the network resonated through the air, growing louder with each step. Dr. Carter and her team walked cautiously, their senses heightened, unsure of what lay ahead. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the structure itself was watching, waiting for them to begin. The chamber was empty, save for a pedestal in the center, its surface glowing faintly. As the team approached, the pedestal activated, projecting a series of holographic images into the air. The images morphed and rearranged themselves into a complex puzzle of symbols and shapes, each one glowing with an otherworldly light. "What is this?" Rachel asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Carter studied the puzzle, her mind racing. "It's a test," she said, A test of intelligence, logic, maybe even perception. They want to see how we solve problems. The holographic puzzle appeared deceptively simple at first, but the team quickly realized that the symbols and shapes represented a mathematical pattern. The rules governing the pattern were unlike anything they had encountered. The symbols glowed brighter when touched, and their arrangement shifted based on the team's input. Rachel stepped forward, her eyes narrowing as she analyzed the symbols. "These shapes, they're not static. They're responding to us," she said. "It's like they're adapting to our thought process." Dr. Carter nodded. "Then let's figure out the rules. Start with something simple. Look for symmetry or sequences." The team worked together, their minds focused on the task. Rachel identified a pattern in the arrangement of the symbols, while Owens, the soldier, noted that certain shapes seemed to trigger specific reactions in the hologram. The team began to piece together the rules, but the puzzle grew more complex with each step. Hours passed as they struggled to solve the puzzle, frustration beginning to mount. But Dr. Carter urged them to stay calm. "This isn't just about solving the puzzle," she said. "It's about how we approach the problem. They're testing how we think, how we collaborate." Finally, Rachel made a breakthrough. She realized that the symbols weren't just mathematical. They were a representation of the cosmic network itself. By aligning the shapes to mimic the nodes and connections of the network, the puzzle began to resolve. The hologram shifted, glowing brightly before dissolving into a burst of light. The team stood in stunned silence as the chamber around them transformed. The walls pulsed with a new energy, and a doorway opened, leading to the next trial. The new chamber was starkly different from the first. Instead of glowing walls and intricate patterns, it was dark and silent, save for a single platform in the center. On the platform were 3 holographic figures, each representing a different scenario. The figures shifted and glowed, their forms indistinct but clearly human. The beings communicated a new message, flooding the team's minds with emotions and impressions. This trial was not about intelligence. It was about morality. The scenarios presented were designed to test their values, their capacity for empathy, and their ability to make difficult choices. The first scenario depicted a choice between saving one person or saving many. The second involved sacrificing personal safety for the greater good. The third was more abstract, challenging the team to weigh the consequences of their actions on future generations. "This isn't just a test of what we think," Dr. Carter said. "It's a test of who we are." The team debated fiercely over each scenario, their voices echoing in the dark chamber. Owens argued for practicality, prioritizing the greater good over individual lives, while Rachel emphasized empathy and the value of every person. Dr. Carter listened to both sides, her mind heavy with the weight of the decisions. In the end, the team reached a consensus, though not without difficulty. They chose actions that reflected a balance between logic and compassion, demonstrating their willingness to prioritize humanity's collective future while acknowledging the importance of individual lives. As they made their final decision, the chamber lit up and the holographic figures dissolved. A sense of approval emanated from the structure, and the doorway to the next chamber opened. The third trial was deeply personal. Each member of the team was separated, placed in individual chambers where they were confronted with holographic representations of their own fears, regrets, and failures. The beings communicated that this trial was about self-awareness and growth, understanding their limitations and overcoming them. Dr. Carter found herself standing before a holographic version of her younger self, filled with ambition but also arrogance. The younger version accused her of prioritizing her career over her relationships, of chasing knowledge at the expense of connection. The confrontation forced Dr. Carter to reflect on the sacrifices she had made and to question whether her pursuit of the unknown had been worth the cost. Rachel faced her own insecurities, haunted by memories of a failed experiment that had cost her the respect of her peers. Owens confronted the guilt he carried from a mission gone wrong, where his decisions had led to the loss of innocent lives. Each team member grappled with their own inner demons, the holograms relentless in their accusations. The trial was emotionally draining, but it also brought a sense of clarity. By facing their flaws, the team emerged stronger, more united, and more determined to succeed. As the team reunited in the central chamber, the walls around them began to shift and glow once more. The beings appeared, their radiant forms emanating a sense of approval. The trials had not only tested their abilities, but also their character, their morality, and their willingness to grow. Dr. Carter stepped forward, addressing the beings. "We've passed your tests," she said. "But what happens next?" The beings didn't respond in words. Instead, they projected a new vision, a glowing pathway leading to the heart of the network. The next step would take them deeper into the unknown, closer to understanding the true purpose of the black boxes and humanity's role within the cosmic system. The chamber pulsed with energy as the pathway opened before them. The trials had been only the beginning. The true test was yet to come. The glow of the newly opened pathway filled the chamber, its brilliance casting long, wavering shadows on the walls. Dr. Carter and her team stood at the threshold, their emotions a volatile mix of triumph and trepidation. The trials had tested their intellect, morality, and resilience, pushing them to their limits. But as they prepared to take the next step, the cracks in their unity began to show. The strain of the journey was evident in every member of the team. Rachel, the astrophysicist, was still shaken from the moral dilemmas they had faced. Owens, the soldier, carried a quiet tension that bordered on defiance. Even Dr. Carter, who had held them together thus far, felt the weight of the unknown pressing down on her. The stakes had never been higher, and the responsibility they bore was almost too much to bear. As they moved into the next chamber, the atmosphere among the team grew tense. The chamber was vast and dimly lit, its walls lined with intricate carvings that seemed to tell a story. The carvings depicted civilizations encountering the black boxes, some thriving and ascending into the network, while others descended into chaos and destruction. The visuals were a stark reminder of what was at stake. "We've seen what happens when civilizations fail," Owen said, breaking the silence. "We could be next. Do we even know what we're walking into?" "We don't," Dr. Carter admitted, her tone calm but firm. "But turning back isn't an option. We've come too far." "Too far for what?" Owens countered, his voice rising. "To be judged by beings who think they're better than us? Maybe we're not ready. Maybe we're better off staying out of this network." Rachel stepped in, her voice sharp. "You think isolation is the answer? Look around, Owens. The network isn't just about knowledge. It's about survival. The universe is vast and dangerous. We need allies. And what if those allies decide we're expendable?" Owens shot back. "You saw what happened to those other civilizations. They were destroyed not because they were weak, but because they couldn't handle the power this network gives." Dr. Carter raised a hand, silencing them both. "Enough. We didn't come here to argue. We came here to prove that humanity is ready for this responsibility. If we can't even work together, how can we convince the network we're worthy?" The rift within the team widened as they moved deeper into the chamber. The next pathway led them to a circular room with a single pedestal at its center. The pedestal glowed faintly, projecting an image of Earth surrounded by a web of light, the beginnings of humanity's connection to the network. The beings appeared again, their forms shimmering in the air. They conveyed a new message, flooding the team's minds with emotions and imagery. The message was clear. Humanity's connection to the network was fragile. Their readiness would not be judged by their technological achievements alone, but by their ability to work together, to overcome internal conflict, and to prioritize the collective good. The message deepened the divide among the team. Owens crossed his arms, his expression hard. They're asking us to put humanity's fate in their hands. I don't trust it. It's not about trust, Rachel argued. It's about proving we can rise above our flaws. This is a chance to show that we're capable of more. And what happens if we fail? Owens shot back. What happens if we prove we're not ready? Dr. Carter stepped between them, her voice steady. Then we'll deal with the consequences. But we can't let fear dictate our actions. This is bigger than any of us. As the argument unfolded, the pedestal began to glow brighter. The carvings on the walls shifted, displaying new images of the team itself. Their actions and conflicts mirrored back at them. The chamber seemed to respond to their discord, its hum growing louder and more dissonant. It was as if the network itself was judging them in real time. Dr. Carter realized what was happening. "This is the test," she said, her voice urgent. "It's not about solving a puzzle or making a choice. It's about us. They're testing whether we can overcome our differences." The team fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. The pedestal's light intensified, and the walls displayed scenes from their journey. The trials they had faced, the decisions they had made, and the moments of unity and division among them. "We have to let go of this," Rachel said softly, turning to Owens. "The fear, the doubt, it's what's holding us back. We're stronger when we work together." Owens hesitated, his jaw tight, but as he looked around the room at the glowing walls and the faces of his teammates, something shifted in his expression. "Fine," he said finally, "but if we're doing this, we do it right. No more second-guessing." Dr. Carter nodded, relief washing over her. "Agreed. From here on, we move forward as a team." The moment they reached consensus, the chamber's energy shifted. The hum grew harmonious, and the light from the pedestal softened. The beings conveyed a sense of approval, their forms glowing brighter. The carvings on the walls changed once more, showing a new image. Humanity's node on the network, glowing steadily, its connection strengthening. The next pathway opened, its glow inviting yet mysterious. The team exchanged uncertain glances but moved forward together, their resolve renewed. The rift that had threatened to tear them apart had been mended, but the challenges ahead would test that unity even further. As they stepped into the next chamber, the air felt heavier, charged with a sense of finality. They knew they were nearing the heart of the network and the ultimate test of humanity's worthiness. The next chamber was unlike any the team had encountered. It was immense, stretching farther than their eyes could see, its walls pulsating with energy that seemed alive. The ground beneath their feet shimmered with a metallic sheen, shifting slightly with each step, as though the structure itself was adjusting to their presence. The air was thick with an almost tangible vibration, the hum of the network now a constant, resonating through their bodies. At the center of the chamber stood a towering construct, a massive glowing obelisk. Its surface was etched with intricate symbols that pulsed faintly, shifting in patterns that seemed almost organic. Surrounding the obelisk were smaller structures, each resembling the black boxes but much larger and more intricate. The team approached cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the cavern of space. "This must be the core of the network," Dr. Carter said, her voice filled with awe. "The heart of it all." The beings appeared again, their luminous forms hovering near the obelisk. They radiated an air of severity, their presence heavier than before. A flood of emotions and impressions filled the team's minds, conveying the gravity of what was to come. "This chamber," the beings communicated, "is the final stage, a test of humanity's ability to understand and wield the power of the network responsibly. The obelisk began to glow brighter, projecting a series of images and symbols into the air. The team watched as the projections morphed into a timeline of the network's history. It showed how the black boxes had been seeded across the universe, their purpose to identify and nurture civilizations with the potential for growth and cooperation. The projections then shifted to show civilizations that had joined the network, their worlds transformed by the shared knowledge and resources it provided. But the projections also showed the darker side of the network's influence. Some civilizations had been consumed by greed, their societies unraveling under the weight of their newfound power. Others had used the network's resources to wage war, their aggression ultimately leading to their own destruction. The obelisk conveyed a simple but profound message. The network was not inherently good or evil. It was a tool, and its impact depended entirely on how it was used. Rachel stepped closer to the obelisk, her eyes wide. "They're showing us what's possible," she said, her voice trembling. "Both the potential and the danger." Dr. Carter nodded. "This is the catalyst," she said. "The moment that defines whether we rise or fall. They're giving us a chance to prove we're ready to show we can handle the responsibility." The obelisk shifted again, its symbols rearranging into a complex sequence. The beings conveyed that the team would need to activate the obelisk, completing a series of tasks that required both intellectual and emotional insight. Each task would test a different aspect of humanity's readiness, its ability to collaborate, to prioritize the greater good, and to act with foresight and compassion. The first task was presented as a puzzle, much like the one in the earlier trial but vastly more intricate. The obelisk projected a holographic map of the network, its nodes and connections constantly shifting. The team had to identify patterns and make adjustments, aligning Earth's node with the rest of the network. Rachel took the lead, her analytical mind racing as she deciphered the symbols and patterns. "This is more than just a map," she said, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. "It's a representation of the energy flow within the network. If we don't align it correctly, the connection could destabilize." With input from the rest of the team, Rachel adjusted the alignment. The hologram glowed brighter, signaling their success. The obelisk pulsed with approval, its light growing more intense. The second task was more abstract. The obelisk projected a series of scenarios, each one presenting a moral dilemma. The team had to make decisions that balanced logic and compassion, weighing the immediate consequences against long-term implications. One scenario depicted a planet on the brink of collapse, its inhabitants divided over how to use the resources provided by the network. Another showed a civilization that had grown too reliant on the network, losing its ability to innovate independently. The team debated fiercely, their voices echoing in the chamber. Owens pushed for practicality, arguing that the needs of the many outweighed the few. Rachel countered with an appeal to empathy, emphasizing the importance of preserving individuality and culture. Dr. Carter listened carefully, guiding the discussion toward consensus. "They're not looking for perfection," she said. "They're looking for balance. We need to show that we can prioritize the collective good without losing sight of individual lives." The team made their choices, each one deliberate and carefully considered. The obelisk reacted to their decisions, its glow shifting to reflect their progress. The final task was the most personal. Each member of the team was shown a vision of their own lives, highlighting the choices that had defined them, their triumphs, their failures, their regrets. The obelisk forced them to confront their deepest fears and insecurities, to acknowledge their flaws and learn from them. Dr. Carter saw herself as a young scientist consumed by ambition and blind to the personal sacrifices she was making. Rachel relived the fallout from her failed experiment, the guilt and shame that had haunted her ever since. Owens faced the memories of a mission gone wrong, where his decisions had cost lives. The process was emotionally exhausting, but it also brought clarity. The team emerged from the task with a renewed sense of purpose, their unity stronger than ever. With the tasks complete, the obelisk emitted a final burst of light, illuminating the chamber. The beings conveyed a sense of approval, their forms glowing brighter than ever. The walls of the chamber shifted, revealing a new pathway that led deeper into the structure. Dr. Carter turned to her team, her expression resolute. "We've proven ourselves," she said. "But this isn't the end. It's just the beginning." The team stepped onto the new pathway, the hum of the network growing louder with each step. The final test was over, but the true challenge, integrating humanity into the cosmic network, was just beginning.